Yeah, I think to some degree we all have this sort of power because we see things that are interesting for us.
Mm,
And I think sometimes what we do is we see something that's interesting, but we don't necessarily take a moment to reflect on why it's interesting or what it means. We just sort of consume it and move on to the next thing, and it becomes almost like that, like sitting in front of a bowl of Doritos, right? Like you're just sitting there popping them in, and you don't even pay attention to what you're doing. And instead, I think that if we were a little bit more conscious of why we find these things interesting and we engaged our curiosity a little bit more, we'd start to see these patterns. So a big part of what I try and teach people is be more intentional with your media consumption. Like be more intentional with what you're paying attention to, and then create some sort of discipline, some sort of method to be able to capture what you read or what you think in a moment so that you can return to it later.
mm,
And the analogy I use for that is that if we could collect ideas the way most of us collect frequent flyer miles, we could really cash them in later, right? Because you don't collect 1,000 frequent flyer miles from flying from one place to another and then turn around, log into your account and say, okay, let me use my 1,000 miles, right? Because you can't do anything. Like that's not enough. But if you collect them over time, then it turns into something valuable where you can actually get a flight somewhere. And I think ideas can be the same way. Like if we collected them and had enough discipline to be able to find where we wrote them down in the first place and not lose that scrap of paper and all the things that we sometimes accidentally do, then we could start to see the commonalities between them and come up with better ideas.